About whether the Milky Way is a galaxy or a candy bar.
It doesn't seem like you have any choice. Can't move on there.
How long since you got reading again?
9 minutes.
How's his pulse?
We gotta give it a...
7 subpoenas through dozens of individuals and businesses seeking records tied to over 430 named Republicans and organizations. Grassley also said investigators sent 84 Arctic Frost-related subpoenas to telecom companies, including 10 tied to toll records for 20 current or former Republican members of Congress. In one stunning exchange, Article 3 Project Senior Counsel Will Chamberlain testified the FBI under Joe Biden did in fact wiretap a call between Susie Wiles and a lawyer and then tried to cover it up and bury the file from easy discovery. Watch this exchange with Senator Mike Lee.
Your testimony focuses, among other things, on an FBI recording of a 2023 phone call between Susie Wiles, who was at the time managing President Trump's presidential campaign, and her lawyer. Now, according to the FBI, the lawyer was aware of the recording, but isn't it true that the lawyer denied that he had ever consented to that arrangement?
That's true. That was widely reported.
And if, in fact, the lawyer did not consent, your testimony today is that this would have been and was an illegal wiretap by the FBI in the absence of her lawyer's consent with the FBI.
That's correct.
And the FBI designated this as a prohibited file to prevent anyone from finding out about it.
That seems to be correct, yes.
Okay, so they did something they weren't supposed to do, then they designated it as a prohibited file to cover it up. Now, in general, should the president be able to direct the FBI to spy on the campaign of his political opponent?
Absolutely not.
And isn't listening to a private conversation between a presidential campaign manager and her lawyer in many ways much more serious as an abuse of government power than an attempted wiretap of the DNC headquarters in Watergate?
Correct, because there's two interests being invaded. First, it's just the wiretap generally, but then it's doubly invasive because it's supposed to be a privileged conversation.
Here with reaction, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, along with the founder, editor-in-chief, justthenews.com, John Solomon is with us. John, Watergate was about a handful of files in a single office. Susie Wiles having a privilege call with her attorney, and then they try to hide the evidence. And more importantly, Arctic Frost, you have discovered, is only one of a number of similar investigations into private citizens, elected officials. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, listen, there are 4 consecutive codename investigations that the FBI targeted at President Trump. Crossfire Hurricane begins with Russia collusion. Then Round River, which deals with Ukraine. Then Plasma Gecko, which deals with classified documents. And then Arctic Frost, which is the aftermath of January 6th. The man twice elected by the United States people to be the president was under constant FBI scrutiny for 10 consecutive years. And many, many people are swept up in it, as you so articulately pointed out. Most of those people were innocent, but their privacy and their intrusions were significant. We learned today 3 really significant things. Cash Patel had 2 years of his phone and email taken. He obviously is innocent, never got charged. He got confirmed as an FBI director, he's got a security clearance. He obviously didn't do anything wrong. We learned today that 14 members of Congress were targeted in just one meeting with Jack Smith and prosecutors. That is a dragnet, basically fishing expedition to look for some dirt on the opposition candidate that was likely going to run against Joe Biden in 2024. And that's where the parallels with Watergate come up. The third thing we learned today, I think is very important, Chuck Grassley raising questions about the accuracy of Jack Smith's recent testimony to Congress. He said he and his team did not rely on the January 6th Select Committee for much evidence or for much of their case. Today they released emails saying they were going page by page to the evidence and logging everything, suggesting that the staff was actually deeply using January 6th. I'd be watching for a possible referral from Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley. One final note, just want to real quickly mention, I heard the word wiretap a lot today during the hearing. I have not been able to confirm any wiretap on Susie Wiles' phones. There would be a Title III notification she would eventually get. No evidence that ever came. I'm not even sure that a phone call was recorded yet. Not been able to confirm this. I just want to caution people on the use of the term wiretap, because my reporting, I've not been able to confirm it, and there are possible other explanations for what happened there. That said, the fact that they were monitoring or looking at Susie Wiles, Kash Patel, anyone, that's what raises so much concern. They were spying on the opposition.
Well, I appreciate the update. I mean, you're right, it has been widely discussed all through the hearing today. Greg, let's talk about unreasonable search and seizure. Is there any recourse for people that are victims here?
Oh, there absolutely is. And the more we learn, the more outrageous and shameful and criminal it appears. You know, Biden's DOJ and FBI, together with an out-of-control special counsel, Jack Smith, absolutely shredded constitutional protections with secret warrantless surveillance, hundreds of Republicans, including, unbelievably, U.S. senators. It was a partisan dragnet. More than 100,000 private communications invaded. Smith and his cronies concealed it with gag orders and hidden files buried in the FBI because they knew what they were doing was a lawless abuse of power. Their goal to target political opponents and destroy Biden's adversary, Donald Trump. But in the process, Sean, they took a wrecking ball to people's Fourth Amendment due process rights as well, which by law can and should be prosecuted as felony crimes. It's called deprivation of rights, conspiracy against rights, but it's also, Sean, grounds for civil lawsuits, willfully violating rights protected by the Constitution. And there's no qualified immunity defense here, since these were clearly established rights. So in addition to criminal charges, I would expect a flood of lawsuits against Jack Smith and others, particularly from U.S. senators, because by law, they were supposed to be notified. They were not. Judge James Boasberg, who is virulently anti-Trump, signed secret non-disclosure orders to hide what was happening. But now he claims, oh, gee, I didn't know. I blindly signed those gag orders. They were all acting in concert. And, you know, when the people you entrust to enforce the law become the lawbreakers, confidence in our government and faith in our judicial system is utterly lost, Sean.
Amen.
To all the victims is to sue the people responsible.
Shameful.
Might be available. Greg, I appreciate it. And John, thanks for that report. We appreciate you. When we come back, Gavin Newsom trying to pick a fight with little old me, and you really want your kids going to spring break? Tommy Leonard weighs in next.